Hi, I'm Lisa Todd. Welcome to this week's End.formants. This week we're going to talk about where we'd want to live if we're not living where we want to live, and why is it that we'd want to live there. We're going to talk about sex and violence on television. We're going to talk about how old would you be if you could stay that way for the rest of your life. Again, welcome to this week's End.formants. END.formants. It's our world. Let's talk about it. What did you say? We are taping. We are taping. Welcome to this week's End.formants. Like I said, I'm coming as a beetle. Anyway, we got Jenny Reed. Jenny, our question of the week is, how are you and V doing?
Oh, we're doing great. We're still together.
Good.
Life is good.
Good. Paula,
Yes.
do you want to talk?
I see we're having a three-way today.
Yes, we are.
Oh.
Is there anything personally you want to? I'm still single, by the way. Is there anything that
Mazel tov. Actually, this is the first three-way I've ever had.
Really?
Yeah.
We might do that on the new evolutions and Formants evolutions because as we know
Alright,
that
maybe that'll increase viewership.
yeah, we're gonna see. We're gonna be a little bit more off the cuff, but we got stuff we want to talk about this week. But for those that don't know, I posted on the wall End.formants as is. The last show is gonna be March 24th. It will air about March 26th, and then the show is gonna go on hiatus, and we're gonna take the show in a different direction. Anyway, so we got stuff to talk about this week, and we're gonna talk about I got, and I'm glad I checked my email. I got an email from Paula. I don't know if you saw it, Jenny. But Paula says, if there's any place that you can, the first question is, do you like where you live? Do you like where you live, Jenny?
Yes, actually, I do. It's a nice area. I don't like my neighbors.
Wait a minute,
Well,
wait a minute, wait a minute, wait a minute. You know what? There's three of us. I'm going to let Paula ask the question. I'm not going to play moderator. Paula, you ask the question because you're the one that asked me to ask it, so ask Jenny.
Didn't you just ask her?
Yeah, but there was more to the question.
Okay, Jenny, do you like where you live?
yeah, actually, it's a beautiful area. Um, Physical beauty. It's absolutely lovely. The the people in my immediate area are kind of icky. My next door neighbors, I really hate them. But
Jenny, where do you live?
people in general, I'm in Manassas.
Where?
Manassas, which is near the DC area.
Oh, wow, okay.
So, I mean, my next door neighbors are really horrible people, but the people other than that, most of the people in the Manassas area are very lovely people. I like that. Um, they're very kind. They're caring. They tend not to be overly concerned about what we are or are not. So I really like that. My house is lovely. It was not too expensive at the time we bought it, but it was, it has a it was a good house for the price, and you can't say that in all areas of the country, particularly not in all areas of DC.
Okay, well, wait a minute now. Paula had a two-parter to that question. So, Paula, what the other part of the question, do you remember what it was?
Yes,
okay.
yes. If you could choose anywhere in the country other than where you live right now to live, where would you choose?
I honestly don't know much about most of the country.
Well, don't come to Florida. That's all I'm telling you.
As a screenwriter, it would probably behoove me to live in LA, but I'm not sure I would actually like LA. But then I've never been there, so I mean, I've never been there for more than a few minutes at a time. Okay, a few minutes is silly, but more than a couple days at a time. So I really don't know the area. So maybe I'd like it, maybe I wouldn't.
Well, I'd like to answer that question if I could, Paula. I live in upstate New York, as you know. I was born and raised in South Florida, and I live exactly where I want to live. Being that I am living in the United States of America, I would like to live in Edinburgh, Scotland, and I will at some point have at least the second home there. And the reason is because
Is it because you'll be closer to Julie?
I've wanted to live in Edinburgh long before I ever met Julie. Jenny will attest to that.
Okay.
That is true.
I was joking.
Oh, okay. Well, I've gotten
Julie is
some
certainly
questions.
Julie
Hey,
is certainly
I could
a bonus for Edinburgh.
Yeah, I could see why. I could see that being a plus for Lisa for sure.
No, Edinburgh is just a spectacular city, but it's not as big as people think it is, and yet it's got everything that I get. It's what they call the Scotland's London, you know. So it's that, and the buildings, the architecture is beautiful, and the people are very
Yeah, but
nice.
Lisa, I
Yes.
said in the United States, where would you move?
Well,
Not Scotland.
I live in
Not
upstate New York.
Scotland.
If I live in upstate New York. If I would live more in the maybe in New Hampshire. I've been there. I like New Hampshire.
Yeah.
I
for
like
sure.
New Hampshire. I'm all right in New York. The taxes are crazy. I'm not crazy about the politics, but I like living on a mountain. I like the change of seasons, and I don't do good in the West. I don't do well in the West. Paula, let me ask you your own question.
All right. Well, it's so funny because I just wrote a post on my Facebook page about Florida and how I despise it. Florida is like the cesspool where I think they have like the sociopaths of humanity have like meetings, and all the sociopaths, psychopaths, people with no morals, and just all the nutbags of society just move to Florida because that's all that's here. I hate to say it. Let's not even mention the ungodly hot weather where in December and January it's like 90 degrees and the palmetto bugs. But I think Florida has the ugliest people in the United States, and they show their ugliness with reckless abandon. If you walk on Las Olas Boulevard, you'll see women that are like overweight with their cellulitic butts hanging out. And
now wait a minute, because I don't know that Jenny knows, or one of our 14 viewers know about Las Olas Boulevard.
All right, okay. Las Olas is like this trendy. It's pretty much the only thing to do on the weekends because really in Florida there's no culture. Their museum, if honestly, if you sneeze, you miss the whole museum. It takes 20 minutes to walk through. Okay.
That's a long sneeze.
Yeah. Well, I guess if you sneeze, if you have an allergy attack, you're done. It's really there's no culture down here. You have to really hunt. I mean, you can find art festivals, but then you have to drive an hour down to Miami, and I won't enter Miami because I despise Miami even more than Fort Lauderdale. It's just the people here, they're just not normal. I mean, I don't know how else to say it. I grew up in Chicago, and I'll tell you, when I go to Chicago on vacation, and it's funny because two of my friends are from Florida, and when they went to Chicago, they noticed. They said it without me prompting them how, wow, people here dress really nice, and they're normal, and they're nice, and they're kind. They say hello. It's like, in Florida, people think it's okay to walk around with their boobs hanging out. It's not. All right? And when you're 600 pounds and you have a hairy back, don't wear a tank top. And when you have an ass so big you can moon Europe, don't wear a Speedo. I mean, I'm sorry, common sense. And it's just, the people here are psychotic. They think...
I want to jump in on that because I got to tell you, and I've lived in both places, all right? But, I mean, you've got your traffic in the Manassas area, Jenny. I'm familiar with that. And Paula, their traffic is equivalent. It is equivalent to the...
Well, let me ask you, Jenny, let me just...
Wait a minute. Let me finish. Okay. It's equivalent to our traffic in South Florida, but the attitude is different. The attitude in the Fort Lauderdale area is, I'm gonna fucking get to that red light first.
Right.
And it's not that bad. That attitude I don't see so much in that area. Am I wrong, Jenny?
here's the thing too, which I just adore because I'm an intellect. Finding people here that have any semblance of education and intellect, it's like a needle in the haystack. Like most people here think Roe versus Wade is a trip down the Mississippi. They think plate tectonics is a new type of China. I mean, it's like, people, oh my gosh, what's wrong with you? I mean, seriously, I have, whenever I need to have an intellectual conversation, I call my friend Deborah in New York City. I mean, I don't understand why finding people with a brain here.
Wait a minute, I don't understand why you're not calling me. I live in upstate New York.
Because you never want to talk, Booby.
All right, I gotta tell you something. I wish Tina was here. Here's a true story. When I was about 12 years old, Tina and I are in West Palm Beach, Florida. You know where West Palm Beach is, Jenny?
Yes.
Vaguely.
Okay, well, it's north.
It's somewhere in Florida.
Yeah, it's on the ocean basically, and it's north of
That's
Fort.
the beach part.
It's north of Fort Lauderdale. Well, Tina's on under one street light, and I'm under the other one, and we're tossing a softball with gloves. You know, we're tossing a ball, and we're using the light so that we can see the ball because it's dark out. Tina says to me, "You got something on your shoulder." I look down. Fucker was this big. This fucking big. It was stuck to my shoulder. I ran. It was a palmetto bug. I ran into a bush. I slid 2 fucking houses on my belly. Ran into Tina's mother's house, my step-grandmother. Woke up Tina's dad. And she just flipped it off. The fucker only moved. I slid 2 fucking... Tina will tell you God's honest truth. Palmetto bugs. I hate them. I'm right there with you, Paula. Go ahead. I'm right there with you.
Yeah, I hate palmetto bugs. Despise them. And they're like the Florida State bird. Actually, no, the Florida State bird is the finger. That should be the Florida State bird. But honestly, it's like the people here. Okay, I grew up in Skokie, Illinois. And when I was 13, my parents, in their infinite wisdom, 14, I'm sorry, decide they're going to move us to Florida. When I was a kid, we were in the best school district in the country, okay, one of the top school districts. When my parents were going to move here, they went to some rabbi, and the rabbi said, this guy was in Florida, he said, whatever you do, do not bring your children here. Do not.
I remember you telling us that.
Right, okay, so listen to this. Now, let me just paint Skokie, Illinois. Skokie was like Pleasantville, okay? My high school, Skokie's predominantly Jewish, so I never knew there was anti-Semitism in the world. I never knew there was racism. I didn't see hate. People were nice to each other. As soon as we moved down here, I was a sophomore in high school, and first week of school, I was thrown up against the lockers by a gang of black girls. They called me, sorry about the language, people, fucking Jew bitch, white cracker, and they cut me with a blade. I was in culture shock. So, I mean, and I'll be honest with you, I see so much fighting and chaos down here. It's just, but I'll tell you, the west coast of Florida, like Fort Myers, that's nicer. I mean, there's a lot of, for some reason, the Midwesterners tend to congregate on the west coast of Florida, where the New Yorkers come to the east coast. And let me tell you, the Gulf is a nicer beach than the Atlantic. I hate the beach on this side of on the Atlantic.
Really? I love the ocean. I love the color of the ocean on the Atlantic side.
Have you ever been to the west coast of
Yeah,
Florida?
yeah, of course. But Paula, if you could live anywhere, where would it be?
Oh gosh, well, number one would probably be back home in Chicago, but I'll admit, because of my writing and my music, probably Manhattan, New York or Los Angeles, definitely LA, New York, or Chicago, for sure.
Very good. So we had another question on the topics, and that question was, if you could be any age and be that age indefinitely, what would that age be? And Jenny, I'm going to start with you again, because I think that was Paula's idea, that question.
I'm still 17. I will always be 17.
Well, why? Why 17?
It's a beautiful age. You've got all of the possibility of the world is opening up in front of you. You're almost an adult, which means you get most of the privileges, but you're
But
not
the
quite an adult, which
consequences,
means you don't have you don't have any of the responsibilities
the
yet.
consequences
Um,
are, yeah.
for me personally, it was definitely one of the happiest years of my life. Socially, it was one of the most successful years of my life. I started expanding my social circle, making new friends, kept the friends I already had, but started meeting people who weren't in school. And just expanding, and the whole world seemed like it was my oyster, and everything was beautiful. And I mean, some wonderful things have happened since then, such as meeting and marrying my spouse. But that's pretty damn good, and that certainly didn't happen when I was genuinely 17. But all the same, I think that my life was at its best at 17, and I sure would like to have that. So
Okay.
in my mind, I still am.
Paula.
Probably like 21 because of pretty much what Jenny said, but I'd like to really focus more on my education. If I was 21, I would have gone straight through to law school without stopping. I would have taken more chances and not worried about the tuition that I did when I graduated college, because I graduated when I was in my mid 30s and I didn't go to law school. So I would have definitely pursued my education more rapidly than I did. I have my degree. I'm proud of that. But, I regret not going to law school or getting my master's.
Very good. Um, uh, I'm fine with how old I am. I'm fine with.
How old are you?
I'm gonna be 50 this year,
Wow.
All right.
so I'm I'm fine, and I really I don't have any complaints or regrets. There are things I do differently now than I did back then, but I think that's called growth. So we had at least two more topics, and but I forget what they were, but I mentioned them on the introduction. So
Sex and violence on TV.
that's right, sex and violence on
Right.
TV. So this time we're gonna start with Paula, and actually, I took some notes on that, but I'm gonna start with you, Paula. Sex and violence on TV. What's going on? What do you think?
I think there's too much of it. I think that we wonder why our society has turned into a cesspool of violence and crime and fighting. Well, look at what the kids today watch. They're desensitized. When I was a kid, my gosh, I had the Brady Bunch. They couldn't even, or I Love Lucy, where they weren't even able to show a married couple sleeping in the same bed when I was a kid.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Well, I need to tell you something. I have something in here. I said I took notes. I had something in here about the Brady Bunch, so I'm glad you mentioned it. I was watching the Brady Bunch. It's on the Hallmark Channel. As they're rerunning it. And I was watching the episode where Jan got a necklace. Remember that? She got a necklace, and it ended up being from Alice.
You have way too much time on your hands if you know details about the Brady Bunch.
I just saw this. I just saw this. But here's the thing, and it's a point that I want to make with what you're saying, and it relates to exactly what you're saying. On this episode of the Brady Bunch, Jan receives a mysterious necklace. It ends up being.
Was it a pearl necklace? All right, that was a joke.
Okay.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
It ends up being from Alice because Jan is the middle daughter, and Alice.
You mean Alice, the
housekeeper, right?
The lesbian. Okay.
Anyway, without knowing where this necklace came from, the parents put the necklace on the kid's neck. Now, in today's day and age, that's not what would happen. And if we watch something like that on TV in today's day and age, we'd say, they'd be asking who's got it, where are they being watched, this, that, and everything else. I'm not sure that it's TV. I'm sure that it's the society around it. There's a lot when it comes to, I have a few things. I see your hand. How risque, like the Golden Girls, is, and I mean, she called that woman a slut back then, back in the day. Archie Bunker with all of his racial slurs, they'd never be allowed on TV today, and I think we were a better society back then. Paula.
Well, okay, Lisa, I'll focus on a couple, issues that are going on today, okay? One of which that I find deeply troubling, and that's babies having babies, okay? When I was a kid, you never heard of an 18-year-old having a baby. You just didn't. That was like never happened, okay? In today's age, you're having 18-year-old girls pregnant in high school and 18-year-old boys knocking up their girlfriends in high school. I mean, look, look, it all goes back to the parenting, okay? If you rear your kids properly, that doesn't, I don't believe it happens. I think you have to have the talk when they're 9 and 10 and 11 and 12 and 13. I mean, even younger than 9 these days, okay? But they see on TV the glamour of having babies young. They don't realize the responsibility, and then another thing is drugs. On TV, you see people doing drugs. It's glamorized, and it's just ridiculous, the stuff, and the nudity on TV, and the violence. I mean, it's just crazy.
Well, Jenny had her hand up. Jenny.
Yeah, just because you didn't hear about it doesn't mean it didn't happen.
It didn't happen, Jenny. If you look at the statistics, look at the statistics from the 70s and today. If you're telling me
it didn't happen as often, but it happened.
Well, I'm sure it happened.
You can't tell me it never happened. It happened.
Of course I'm not saying it never happened, but I mean, you can't compare.
I know people who it happened to. It's just, back in the 70s, they did their damnedest to cover it up. Now they don't bother to cover it up.
Right, but I agree with you, but Jenny, you cannot compare the statistics. I mean, well,
yes, it happens more often and now, but you can't say it didn't happen.
I know it did. I know it happened, but not to the astronomical rates it does now.
Well, that's true.
Well, let me ask you, how responsible? I mean, I'm sitting with two other writers, and I'm creative again now too, so I'm working on something as well. How responsible are we? How responsible are we for what we put out there? Because I'm working on something that's controversial. Paula.
I'll tell you how responsible we are. I had a professor in college, Dr. Jacobstein. She was phenomenal. She told us all how when her kids were young, she put a lock on the TV. The only channel they could watch was PBS. That was it. All 3 of her children have doctorate degrees. They never had, knocked up. They don't have, like, illegitimate children.
No, wait a minute, you misunderstood the question.
They didn't get into drugs.
No, you misunderstood the question. The question is, how responsible are we as...
All right, but let me finish.
As writers. No, as writers.
I'm getting to that.
Okay.
Okay, as a writer, okay, I can write whatever I want. I'm not going to censor myself, okay? It's not my job to parent people.
Okay.
If you don't want your kid reading what I write, have the judgment. Don't let your 13-year-old son watch Fast and Furious. Don't let him watch TV shows that glorify sex and violence. And then maybe when your 16-year-old son comes to you and says, "Mommy, I got my girlfriend pregnant," then you won't be shocked.
Okay, very good. Jenny, how responsible do you think we are as writers?
Well, honestly, it depends on what your intended audience is. If your intended audience is 5 and 6-year-olds, you are very responsible. If your intended audience is adults, you're not at all responsible, because basically when you write, it is my belief that writing mirrors either the world or the world you want it to be, or some vision. It's a dream put on paper, and you tell stories, and maybe the stories have a moral, maybe they don't. If you intend to have a moral, it is a good idea to have a good moral. I mean, drugs are great is a terrible moral, but don't kill people is a really good moral, as a for example. But there are a lot of stories that don't have morals, and if your story does not have a moral, then you know,
Well,
you don't
isn't
have
that
any
up to
responsibility.
interpretation? Do you agree that that's up to interpretation?
What, the moral?
Yeah, what somebody gets out of it.
Yes, absolutely. What people get out of your story is very seldom what you think you put into it. I definitely agree there.
Mm-hmm.
But what I'm saying is that if you in oh, we lost her.
That's all
But
right.
what I'm saying is that if you are trying to get a moral across, then you are responsible to make sure that the moral is actually something worth getting across. But if you're just trying to tell a story and you are not aiming it at little kids, then I say just tell the right story. Hello again, Paula.
Hey, but so Jenny, are you saying I can't write porn for 6-year-olds anymore? I'm just kidding. Joke.
That I'm saying about, you know, for 6-year-olds or 7-year-olds or really young kids is that they are very impressionable, and that's because they're at a phase in their life where they're still soaking things in. They haven't got those pre-filters down yet. So yes, you are a lot more responsible.
Yeah, but what child authors write, like, you know, sizzling child books?
Yeah, I mean, kind of that kind of went. That kind
I
of.
would be very surprised.
Okay,
Name 'em.
and
Off the top of my head, my mind went blank. But I recently read one. Granted, it was aimed at preteens, not 6-year-olds, but it was something that I enjoyed as an adult. But there's no way I would let my 13-year-old read if I had a 13-year-old.
okay, and that's exactly what Paula was saying was
Yes.
parent.
But
You
the-
got
but
you got a
Read it.
parent.
But
You're
the thing
parenting.
is, I think that it was irresponsible of them to label it for 13-year-old people because, you know.
Oh, wait a minute. We could get into a debate about censorship. I'm ready to go there.
I'm not saying censorship.
Me
I'm
too.
saying labeling. The author.
That's
and or
that's
the
a
publisher,
censorship though.
Now,
That
if they had published the exact same words and said this is for 15 to 18-year-old kids,
Yeah,
I
but
would
the
have
parent,
said
but Jenny, the parent, it's ultimately responsible to
I
peruse
agree.
that book and not give it to their child.
I agree that it's the parents' responsibility in the end, but if you label it properly, the parents have an easier
yeah, but
job.
who? Wait a minute. I got something to say too. What? And my question is, who are the people that are going to determine that age group? Because in all honesty, it's different in different countries. It is. So what's labeled for a 15-year-old in the UK, for example, is labeled for an 18-year-old here. It's different countries
Yeah,
have it
you're
different.
right. You're
So
right.
Paula, you go ahead. You had your hand up, Paula.
All right, well, okay, here's the thing with parental, you know, it all falls on the parents. For example, okay, my sister has a daughter and a son. And, you know, they had access to a computer, but she never let them on the computer without her permission, and she had it set up with parental locks, and she monitored them. I mean, there's no reason your 12 or 13-year-old son should be watching porno. I mean, I'm telling you, I have a friend that has 5 boys, and she was telling me a story about when her son was like, I don't know, 13. He was watching porn on the internet. What? Why aren't you monitoring that?
Right. Exactly.
Well, I'm not defending your friend. I don't know the circumstances, but I will say that prior to the internet, my
Playboy
brother.
magazines, I know.
Yeah, well, my brother, when he was 8, maybe 9 years old, he got his hands on a Playboy. I can't tell you how he got his hands on it. I know my mom didn't give it to him. I mean, you know, she didn't have any of that stuff in the house. We didn't have a father, so, you know, you can't blame him. I don't know where this magazine came from. He never told her. She did find it. She did confiscate it. But the fact is, he did come in contact with it. He read it. What do you do when that happens?
Wait a minute. He didn't read it. He didn't read it.
Wait, Lisa, let me just answer that.
Okay, he looked at the pictures. Fine, whatever.
All right, well, yeah, I was reading the articles. Okay, listen. I got a hold of a Playboy magazine when I was like 12 or 11 or something, and my parents, when they found out, man, I don't want to tell you what happened. They were pissed off, and, you know.
You can be pissed off, but you can't make the kid unsee it. So you've got to have a backup plan for when they do see it.
No, I agree with you, of course. I agree with that.
That's all I'm saying.
Okay.
All right, Lisa, what I was saying also is there is something very disturbing that the most read book right now is 50 Shades of Grey, okay? In this country, the fact that most people would rather read a poorly written book about sex than read books that have to do with politics or current events is really a testament to the sheeple and idiots that we have living here. I hate to say it, but, you know, people are glued to their TVs on the Oscar Pretorius and Jodi Arias trial, but yet they don't watch C-SPAN or CNN.
So
they go to the voting booths and they vote for a candidate. They don't even know what they stand for. It's ridiculous.
Well, that's true all around. I mean, both parties of people, they're just,
right.
They vote for the candidate that's whatever party they belong to.
I mean, Jenny, I'll be honest with you. Most of my friends voted for Obama, and I can tell you that, like, none of them know anything he's done or what he will do. They just voted for him, and it's frustrating. Because you know what? If you have thorough knowledge about Obama and you still voted for him, hey, kudos to you. At least know who you're voting for.
Well, they may or may not have had knowledge of Obama, but...
Hang on a second, Jenny. Jenny, I got an echo from you. Hang on.
I don't hear an echo.
Oh, I did. I hear one with me, too. I'm echoing I'm muting everybody for a second. You should come on at some point. You guys should come on at some point soon here.
There.
How's
Am
that?
I echoing now?
No. Paula?
Fantastic.
Okay.
How are you, Paula?
Fine.
Okay.
Oh, so I was saying, so a lot of people, in this particular election, a lot of people weren't really voting for somebody, they were voting against the other guy.
Yeah, but they didn't know what they were voting against. That's what I'm saying. They didn't know anything about Romney or Obama. Only what, you know, YouTube said or what their friends said. I mean,
or all those scare tactics bullshit that was going around the internet on both sides.
Yeah, but the thing is, they don't know. Yeah, but Romney, they didn't know what Romney. They just thought he was the devil. They didn't know anything he did or what he would do. They were just going. People just are clueless.
Well, let me ask you a question because you hit on something that's really important. What somebody says they're going to do and what they actually do are two different things, and that's on both sides.
That's
so
frequently true in politics, yes.
So the question is, I put a big thing up on the informants page, and we did a show. That's our first show was with the candidates and the campaign. But I think that the best way to do that is to handle it from the smaller aspect by local government, and then it unfolds to the higher government, because we're just going around in circles with what can we do, what can we do, what can we do, Paula, what can we do?
Well, I didn't understand the question, Lisa.
Well, you've complained a lot, and I get it, that people aren't interested. People aren't interested. How do we get people interested?
You mean in wanting to not be sheeple and actually be informed?
Yeah, absolutely.
You can't. I mean, if somebody would rather sit on their couch and watch American Idol than watch C-SPAN, there's nothing you can do. I guess, like, maybe tie them to the bed and force them to watch C-SPAN. I don't know how to do it.
Okay, so I guess my question is, you complain about it a lot, so it's a moot point then. Am I wrong or am I right?
Well, okay, all right. I try to educate people by blogging a lot on my Facebook page, and I'll be honest with you. I almost get daily emails from people that tell me that they've learned from what I've written and that I've changed their opinion. They just didn't know. So I'm doing my part. I'm fighting. I'm doing my part. And as writers, Jenny and Lisa, you need to do your part too.
Well, I was going to chime in that it's true. I didn't know anything about the stuff about Israel before I started reading your page.
God bless you, Jenny. Thank you. And I'm going to tell you something. You just hit on something that's a very raw button for me. And I'm going to tell you why. Israel is a passion of mine, you know, because I grew up in Skokie, Illinois, and I saw the American Nazi Party try to march. I have, you know, my family, we've lost people in the Holocaust. So I'm very passionate about Israel. It's more than just a country to me. It's my heart. Just like I believe in the DNA of all Jews, it should be part of their heart. But I get very angry when I have a discussion with somebody who automatically snaps and says, well, the Palestinians are right and Israel is wrong, and they have absolutely no fucking knowledge about Israeli history or Palestinian history for that matter. They're just going with what the Western mainstream media has painted, and it gets me angry. Before I ever weigh in on important topics, I have thorough knowledge on both sides of the aisle, not just pro, but against, because how else can you make an opinion? So it angers me that somebody would make a snap judgment like that without knowing the facts. And knowing the facts isn't going to YouTube or listening to your vanilla Jew, self-loathing Jewish friend, or, you know, Googling it. You know, you know, I know on the internet the phrase Googling it. Everybody Googles it. I Google too. But here's the thing, I also read books. And I mean, I use multiple sources, unbiased, nonpartisan sources to make my opinion. So when I had an ex-girlfriend that I dated for a couple months, and on our third date, she says, the Jews need to get out of Israel. I don't know if she thought it was foreplay or if I was going to like date her after that. She didn't even know what she was talking about. And her mother was a devout Christian, and her mother used to yell at her all the time and say, what are you talking about? But she would make snap judgments, and she had a master's degree, no less.
Well, that's exactly the problem. A lot of people are somehow or another trained, or maybe it's just innateness, I don't know, but a lot of people do make snap judgments. And they hear a sound bite, and they say, okay, that's the way things are, and then they turn off their brain to further knowledge once they've made up their mind.
Right.
I'm sure that there must be some reason why this happens. I don't know what it is because I'm not like that, and I don't get it.
I'll tell you why, Jenny. I'll tell you why.
But it does happen.
I'll tell you why. Because you're wickedly smart. Okay, you've proven it. I mean, if nothing else by your education, but the fact that you are open-minded. And when just by saying what you said about learning about Israel, God bless you. I've read your posts and I've learned things that I never knew before. Number one, weak people are closed-minded. They are so afraid by saying I didn't know that it makes them look stupid. It doesn't. Saying I don't know makes you look smart, actually.
I totally agree with that.
Right? Mm-hmm. And another thing is people are lazy. Come on. It's much easier to Google it and watch a YouTube clip than read a book.
Well, that's today's generation. Isn't that today's generation?
That's not true, because I know 50-year-olds that do the same thing.
Well, but in all honesty, if they're trying to keep in touch with their grandchildren, then, you know, and again, listen, I'm going to be 50. I keep in touch with my nieces and my nephews on the Facebook. I totally use the technology. Otherwise, I wouldn't be I wouldn't be in as much, I wouldn't know them. This is me knowing them on a daily basis.
But Lisa, here's the thing. As writers, it's our responsibility to use the social networking tools to educate people. I mean, my Facebook page is not, coupons, pictures of coupons from Starbucks and telling you that I had a great bowel movement 3 hours ago, okay? My Facebook page,
I appreciate that.
There are people that write every time they have a friggin' allergy attack, they have to regale you with how long their snot was and how many times they say, I don't care. Or the ones that have pity parties on their Facebook page and talk about how, oh, their life is so sad and oh my gosh, this and that. You know what? Use your page wisely. I have over 900 friends, and I use that as a sounding board to educate and wake people up. And as writers, we should be all doing that.
Well, you know what? I'm going to say this. I'm going to say that I think I have a responsibility as a writer. It might not be the same responsibility that you have or that you want me to have. However, I have a responsibility as a writer for my own expectations. But I totally am not at all responsible for what somebody gets out of something that I
but
wrote.
Lisa, you're as
Wait
an
a minute,
American,
I am only responsible for the intention of what I've written.
Okay, well said. But as an American, you're responsible to know the current events and know what's going on in your government and have a good command of it. How else could you vote? I mean, a friend of mine, you got to hear this. My best friend, who I adore, I said to her, "So, what do you think about Chuck Hagel?" She says, "Isn't he on the Dolphins?" I'm like, "Oh my gosh." He's only running for the highest post, the Secretary of Defense. He's being nominated. She thought he was a football player.
There's a lot of people that don't know about politics.
Yeah, but if you vote, no politics. Otherwise, don't vote.
Absolutely. Well, absolutely. I don't think that you could that you should just vote to vote. Jenny, did you have your hand up?
Yes. I'm sort of going to agree with you by telling a true story about a friend of mine. I will call him Jay. Jay sent me a message shortly before the election. I think he was trying to drum up last-minute votes for his candidate, which happened to be Romney. But he started off with "Don't you hate people on welfare?" And I was like, "What?" And he said, "Well, people on welfare, they take up all the resources. They're sucking this country dry. Blah blah blah." And he went on for about 2.5 minutes typing vehemently. And then when he paused and waited for my response, I said, "Aren't you still on welfare?" And there was a slight pause.
No way, Jenny. No
he said,
way.
"I shouldn't be." Just like that, seriously.
Oh,
Like this
wow.
guy was on welfare, but
Hypocrite. Hypocrite.
yeah. And the thing was, I'm pretty sure by that pause, it hadn't even occurred to him to connect the dots. I hope he doesn't watch this now. But
Nobody does. Nobody watches the show. It's only me, Jenny, you, and my roommate.
okay. Yeah, can you bleep his name out?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Hang on. All right, so we have another topic about if you would rather be the more loved in a relationship or the one that's receiving, the one that's giving and the one that's getting. You said it, Paula. Say it.
But would you rather be the lover or the lovey in a relationship? Meaning, would you rather have the stronger feelings than the person you're with or the lesser feelings?
Well, I can answer that. I've been loved more than I've loved. However, there was a couple relationships where I felt like I was the one that loved more. But I found in the more, Paul McCartney said it perfectly. He said, "Not every day do I wake up in love." He said, "I got to keep working at it." And that was what he said about his wife, Linda, who he spent a lot of time with. And in my more successful relationships, though I haven't had a successful one because I'm single, but I found that, you know, it's not consistent all the time. There are days that I love more and there are days that I'm loved more. Jenny?
Well, I can tell you for a fact that it doesn't work if, obviously, like you said, there are days when you love more and days when you love less, but it doesn't work if your relationship over time doesn't about equal out. It just doesn't, because if somebody loves the other one more than the other one loves back, that person is eventually going to feel abused and used, and it's never going to work.
And there's going to be a resentment there, isn't it?
Damn right. The one who loves more is going to say, "You don't love me enough. It's not fair," and it's just it doesn't work. If they expected to be loved back, there's going to be resentment. If they didn't expect to be loved back, there's going to be different mental issues. Either way, it just doesn't work in the long term.
Yeah, Paula, I gotta kind of ask you, why would you ask, why did you ask a question? Because I would just think that it's so obvious what we all want.
Because you were asking for topics, I'll be honest
Okay.
with you. I went onto a site that has thought-provoking topics, and that was one of them.
And were there people that actually wanted to be the one that?
Lisa, let me weigh in, since I thought it was an interesting question because it should be obvious, but I'll be honest with you, it made me think. And I don't know. I think there's good points and bad points to both. First of all, if I'm the one who loves more, then I'm controlling the relationship. Okay? Because I'm controlling the time I spend with them. I'm doling out my love like little breadcrumbs. Okay? And it's a safer place to be. I've been in both. I've been the lover and I've been the lovey, and I don't know which I like better, because the thing is, if I love somebody more than they love me, then you feel rejected, and I don't know how long that can last. And I'll be honest with you, when I've been in those situations, I am one of those foolish romantics that believe in love conquers all. So I'll stick it out for a while. And because, most often when you find someone that doesn't reciprocate, there's always a reason for their non-reciprocation, meaning they'll tell you they're in a bad spot in their life. There's a lot of excuses around it, and I'll wait it out, but here's the problem. When I wait it out, here's the thing. If you're not giving somebody in a relationship, if you're not treating them right, and you're not giving to them what they're giving to you, then you run the risk of them finding somebody else, because if there's going to be somebody else out there that's going to treat them well, they're going to walk. And
Right.
That's what's happening with me. When I've been with people, right? When I've been with women that haven't loved me to the way I've loved them, there's always somebody that I find that starts giving me attention. And I don't think I'm wrong for breaking it off and leaving, because I don't want to be. Why should I be treated like shit? All right. But on the other hand, I've been with women that I've loved less and they've loved me more. And actually, I'm sorry, that's the relationship that you have more control of, because when you love somebody less,
yes.
I'm sorry, when you love somebody less, you're doling out the breadcrumbs and you're in control. But the thing is, I don't want to be with somebody that I don't love that much. To me, it's a waste. I want to be with somebody that makes my heart explode, where I see fireworks, where the tulips smell better and the world is bright. That's what I want, but I want it to be equal, because if it's not equal, then I'm not with somebody that deserves me. And you know what? If they don't think that I'm worthy of their love, then they don't deserve me. And I don't care what the situation is in their life. You know what? We all have things that we go through, and maybe love isn't our priority at every moment in our life. Because look, if let's say I'm unemployed right now, I'm looking for a job, obviously that's got to trump any relationship I'm in. That doesn't mean that I can't have a relationship and give what I can in it while I'm in it. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. I don't think that has. Listen, I don't think anybody should get a free ride, but I think people should do what they can do.
What do you mean a free ride, Lisa?
In other words, if somebody's not working and somebody's making a lot of money, then it still has to kind of work itself out where that person that's working and being the breadwinner at the time, the other person who's not working needs to be doing more in the house. It has to kind of weigh itself out. I think that that's just respect and a love. It's not always going to be equal, because not everybody's going to make the same income, you know? So, and I want to say, I saw your hand up, Paula, but that also kind of does lead us into that topic of marriage, or domestic civil union. But anyway, you had your hand up, Paula.
Well, Lisa, I completely agree with you that, let's just say, if somebody's the breadwinner and supporting their spouse, then the spouse should be, reciprocating by, cooking or cleaning or doing their part. But I'm talking about emotional reciprocation. I mean, if you're the one that's always there for your partner, you're the one, always caring for them emotionally, and they can't just give back, then it's sort of like, look, it's your own fault if you stay. It's your own fault if you stay, but, you can't make demands on somebody that is in a spot in their life that they just can't give, okay? But the thing is, there reaches a point where you wake up one day 5 years later and you say, wait a minute, I've been giving, and there's always an excuse to why they can't give back. I'm the idiot. Walk away, because, what are you
Yeah, it shouldn't take 5 years, though. It shouldn't take 5 years. Jenny, what do you got to say about that, Jenny?
Well, agree with Paula in that what people contribute to the relationship is not the same thing as love, and both are important, but they're totally different issues. And like Vicky and I contribute very differently, but I think we would both agree that we contribute equally. But the important thing is that we actually care about each other. Like, for example, I do all of our finances because I like that. I enjoy working with money, figuring out how much we have. I find
Lisa,
that
there's
fun.
an echo. Bad echo.
Really horrible echo. But should I keep going or stop?
Keep
Hold on
going.
1 second.
Okay. So, I really enjoy the finances, so that's one of my big contributions. And Vicki appreciates that because she finds trying to figure out how much money we have very depressing. Because it's like if we don't have billions and billions of dollars, more money than we can possibly use, she's depressed. And she'd probably still be depressed if we were billionaires. But anyway.
Really?
Probably. I don't know. It's not her thing. She doesn't like money.
Okay.
Yeah. Like she said, oh no, I've got too much money. That would be terrible. But I mean, that's not the same thing as love. I mean, if I were to come in and be her financial advisor without bringing the love, it would be helpful to her. She would probably appreciate it, but we couldn't build a marriage on that.
Well, that's not a partnership. A partnership is trying to make it work. In my opinion, a partnership is trying to make all the pieces kind of fit. And if you care enough, sometimes you gotta bust off an edge to make it fit. Paula's got her hand up.
Well, okay, but this is even deeper than this. Than just romantic relationships. Friendships are two ways. It's mutual. I mean, look, I had a friend, guys, I'll be honest with you, that I dumped a few months ago because it was one-sided. I was the one always listening to her troubles. I was the one always listening to her day and her stories, and she never took an interest in me. Now, you know what? Maybe if you're hot and I'm screwing you, I'll give you more latitude. But if you're just my friend, I'm not going to give you a pass. Every relationship we have is two ways. And if you ever notice, if you ever hook up with somebody that has no friends, that's a red flag. That should tell you they're too selfish to have friendship.
Yeah, we've talked about that before, but I mean, come on. Listen, we talk. I don't know Jenny very well, but I certainly, when I see something she likes on Facebook, I let her know I'm thinking about her by putting that up on Facebook. That's just like a common courtesy that you do to a friend. I speak to you on the phone, Paula, and we're trying to hook up while I'm down in Florida so that we could do something. But I mean, the thing is, you know, there are people like that. There are people, and I know them, and unfortunately, they have their degrees in like mental health and shit, and they're ass backwards. But we talked about that before too. You say you demote them.
Yes, I demote them.
Exactly. I say, if all they're doing is taking from me, I don't need that. I don't need that negative energy. Everybody's entitled to a bad day. Wait, hang on. Everybody's entitled to a bad day. But if that bad day is every day, I'd rather not surround myself around it. Go ahead, Paula.
No, Lisa. When I say I demote somebody, I'm not talking about the energy vampires. I'm not talking about emotional vampires that just suck from you and aren't there for you. No, I kick them out of my life. I demote people that their infractions are not like that. But I'll tell you, I'm very attracted to self-centered women. So I must say that I don't usually demote them too easily.
Jenny, you got anything to say?
Because you know what? If somebody's hot, I tend to overlook the selfishness.
Jenny, you got anything to say? Because I think that pretty much covers our topics this week.
Oh, well, just going to say that I suddenly had a brain freeze, and it's all gone.
Paul, you got anything to say?
Nope, that's it.
All right, so next week we hope to be joined by Debbie, Paula's sidekick Debbie, and Julie from the UK. So see you next week on Informants. Bye.